The number of confirmed deaths has passed 200. The governor has called a state of emergency.
There are hundreds and hundreds of bodies.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is The Last of Us Survivor Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 2, The Outskirts, and we're on the very first segment, Outsider. So this is Ellie, and that is my phone. But there goes the phone anyway, sorry about that, guys. Always happens to me, because, you know, nobody ever rings me until I start recording anything. But this is Ellie. Not Elle. I think I said Elle. I meant to say Ellie. She is the second half of The Last of Us, the two companions, the main protagonists. And I've got to admit, before I even played the game, I kind of hated her, because I kept getting that same advert on YouTube, where she goes, "Life was easy before shit kicked off, huh?" And it's every time she does that questioning fucking upper inflection thing she does, where she goes, "Huh?" Where she's wanting you to respond. She turns everything into a damn question. And it really irked me. It irked me so much. But I can happily say she is kind of great. And throughout the course of the story, she has a very interesting, character progression. And there's some awesome moments because she doesn't follow up everything she says with "huh" all the time, which is something I fucking hate. But this is where the game essentially starts. This is where the real Demon's Souls begins. And it's going to be interesting because there's quite a lot of interactivity you can do with your companion, but it's kind of random, and a lot of the times they're kind of shitty. Like, some companions can shoot, and one way of saving ammo on this difficulty is kiting enemies and letting the AI shoot them, because they have as much ammo as they need. The problem is, their guns are so nerfed compared to yours that it takes them forever to kill things. There's also situations where Ellie will give you ammo, much like Elizabeth from Bioshock. The difference being she doesn't throw it, you don't catch it, it just pops up on your hood and you've got 4 bullets and things, which is really useful, but it doesn't happen all that often. In fact, I don't remember it ever happening on hard, but on survivor mode it happened twice. Twice to my knowledge anyway. But, for instance, she can throw bricks. Your companions can throw bottles or bricks at people and it will stun them, but there's no real frequency as to when they throw bricks. So it's not like you can game the system and exploit it, which is a shame, but it is what it is. And then the other one is they'll tell you when people are behind you, which is really useful. They'll also try and attack them, which can be useful. That brings me to the melee components of the game, which for the most works fine, but every so often it kind of gets a little bit buggy, a little bit not too great. The time when you're going to get the most annoyances from it is when you're in cover and somebody's moving towards you. And how this game works is, if the enemy is not looking or anticipating to look where you're going to be, you can grab them from in cover and subdue them silently. But if they see you in that transition, the grab will not work. And what can happen sometimes is, if you've got a good weapon, it's better to not even go for the grab, it's better to go for the strike. Like, if you have a melee weapon that has the ability to insta-kill, it's sometimes better to press square and just attack. But every so often, like, Joel will not home in on them and do the Hoover smack that I've dubbed it, where he essentially covers the distance and kills them. And the detection on it is quite close, it's not too far away. But every so often, the game goes fucking janky, where you'll swing and it'll miss, and then they'll hit you. Or, you go to swing, they have no idea where you are, and the moment you swing they duck, or they dodge it, and then they smack you. And I've got no problem with the AI responding intelligently to somebody swinging a bat at them, but you can't dodge like they do. Like, there's no button, there's no quick prompt to duck their move. Like, the only thing you get is to press triangle when you're in a fist fight. And I've never even seen that prompt when it's been a weapon fight. So, I've swung at people, it's missed, they've swung at me and hit me, and perhaps I have to experiment pressing triangle to see if it's not prompted, but it does work. Because I found it a little bit cheap. And there's a lot of moments where I would literally say to you, know your range. Know your range, know the game's jankiness, and know when you're safe to do the melee stuff, because the amount of times you can get fucked is kind of obnoxious. And it happens a lot. Like, the detection on certain animations can be a little squirrely. Like, when you go up against cover, Joel puts his hands against it, because it's a context action. The only problem is it overrides commands. Like, you cannot do a triangle command while he has his hand on cover, because it's classed as a different state. It's not a neutral state where commands can be input. So you have to break away before he does the, like, shimmy up and stuff. So there's little bits like that trip the game up. It's nothing massive or glaring, but there are certain things that you definitely find on the harder difficulties where the game is not quite as, I wouldn't say polished, but a lot of the things that could have perhaps been better shine as glaring problems at times. And another one here, while I'm talking about these mechanics that don't quite work as well or will get you killed, is the shooting out of cover. So anybody that's watched a third-person shooter guide made by me will know I exploit the camera in these games mercilessly because it makes them easy to play. And to do this, you come out of cover, you aim round the cover until your gun is poking out and none of your body is, and you can effectively shoot round cover while not showing any vulnerability. It works fantastically in nearly every third-person shooter that exists. It does work in this game, but it works to a lesser extent. And the logic in this game is, if you can shoot them, they can shoot you. And because on Survivor the accuracy of the enemies is so high, you will often get knocked on your ass by a shotgun by someone you can't even see. Like, you can see his gun barrel, but you can't see him. He can see your gun barrel, and he hits you. So it's one of those things where, unless you're really fast and really accurate, shooting out of cover like that, if they know where you are, is a dangerous proposition, and it's something that I would recommend you only do when you're confident in your ability to win. And you're going to see me do it in this guide, but for the most, you're not going to see it too frequently. Like, if there's an opportunity to stealth, I'm going to try and do it. I will often tell you if I tried to stealth it and it didn't work, and thus I was doing something differently. So you know both ways can be approached, but some of them have, jarring problems. And then that leads me to the bow. The bow is probably the biggest thing to discuss while we're stealthing through this area. This area is pretty simple. It's kind of an introduction to the stealth. Make sure you're checking all the crooks and crannies just in case you find something. A lot of the time, though, on this difficulty, you're not going to find anything. You're just going to find empty drawers and nothing worth picking up. But the bow, I'm just going to take a sip of coffee. This is obviously the year of the bow. It's kind of calmed down a little bit as, there's no games coming out. There's been quite a lull in games at this moment in time. Oh, by the way, if you completely bomb it at this beginning bit that I'm doing now, you can get into this area before these guys get all that far down the street, and it makes stealthing past them significantly easier. So, words of wisdom there, use them, and hopefully you'll have no issue here. If you do need to distract, throw a brick. That's what it's designed for. And just keep moving forward. But the bow is prevalent in games, and it's in this game, and it's really, really good. It's just so hard to use. Like, the aiming on it is tricky because the enemies barely stand still. If you hit somebody and they don't know you're there, you can generally insta-kill them. And you're probably thinking, this bow sounds great. This is the weapon I'm going to use for the rest of the game. And I wish you could, but you can't make arrows. You can't fashion them from wood or trees or any kind of salvage like that. And there's this random probability scale that when you fire one, the arrow's going to break. So you have this extremely powerful weapon that's been balanced in such a way to make sure that you cannot cheese the game with it. Which is a great thing, because it means it's not a win button, but at the same time, I wish there was a way to control why the arrows break. Because I've experimented with shooting people in the back, I've experimented with shooting people in the legs, I've experimented shooting people that knew I was there, and it seems to be, if they know you're there, the arrow will always break. Unless perhaps it's an insta-kill, and then you got really lucky. If they don't know you're there, it's like 2 in 3 chances of breaking. There is much more chance of it breaking than it not breaking. And if you're good with your looting and your salvaging, when you go through Billstown, which is coming up later on, you can get like 9 arrows. You can get a lot of arrows, but I always find when I've got a lot of arrows, I'm shitter with the bow. Like, you give me 1 arrow and I turn into Sylvester Stallone in Rambo 3. You give me 9 arrows and I'm just not going to hit shit, you know? I'm just going to make a complete and utter joke of myself. It just seems to be the way it works. But that being said, I recommend you spend some time with the bow to at least invest in the experience it takes to learn how to fire it and learn how to use it quite comfortably, because there's a sequence later on where you have to play as Ellie and you will be using the bow, and I cannot guarantee you're going to have the ammo to use the gun. And there is a lot of guys, so the bow definitely comes in handy. But we're moving up through the pipe, as you can see, getting out of the safe zone and out into the outside, which is the name of this level. A couple of times I'm going to leave my torch on by accident because I can't tell I've got it on. You know, some parts of this game are very dark. I've done my best to make it as viewable as possible. And we're coming up on the section that you saw in the demo, which you're going to see in the next one. And the funniest part about it, that fight at the end of the demo is one of the toughest rooms in the game. I did not think it would be. I thought by the time you got there you would understand the game better or have better equipment, and it turns out you really don't. It's just a tough room. So thanks for watching, and you take care now.